What up, YouTube? It's your boy Ghost. I'm coming to you from inside my truck. I'm dropping this video today to speak on direct shippers. I get a lot of people asking me, how do they get direct shippers? How do they get contracts with FedEx? How do they get contracts with the post office? How do you get direct shipping contracts? So I thought I'd drop this video today to speak on how I did it and how anybody can do it, but it's gonna take more than just a one truck operation and one trailer operation. If you really want to secure a solid contract, it first starts with research. You got to research, because if you don't research, how do you know what type of contract to actually go for? For me, when I first started looking into getting contracted freight, the reason why I wanted to get contracted freight is because the rate, no matter what, is the same all year round. It never changes. So I don't have to deal with the fluctuating rate. And then at the same time, I don't have to deal with trying to find a load when, it becomes like now it's January and it's the slow season. I don't have to find a load because I got the freight and it's always there. My contract's good for a year. So that was one thing I looked for. Also, it was specific lanes that I like traveling. It's like you got to have a plan. A lot of people hit me up and ask me about getting direct contracts, but they don't have a plan. They're just like, oh, I'm gonna get me a truck and I want to go get me a direct shipping freight so I can put all these people on, but that's not a solid plan. Like for me, I told myself I like running I-10, I-20, California to Arizona, California to Vegas, California to Utah. So what I did, I took time and I just started researching just lanes that who ships where, what ships what, who does this, who does that. I started learning about like warehouses, how warehouses work. Certain warehouses have, we'll say, like a main hub. Then they have DCs. We'll say, for example, we'll use Lowe's, for example. Lowe's could have, 4 DCs across the country. They'll have one on the West Coast, we'll say 2 on the West Coast, 1 in the Midwest, and 2 on the East. Well, I want to know, okay, well, you got all these little Lowe's stores. How can I deliver to each of those stores? Well, you got to figure out what DC actually services those stores, because we'll say you have a DC down in Southern California. All right, you got this DC in Southern California. That DC could be servicing Seattle, Washington. So everything that comes out of that DC down there is dedicated to the stores in Seattle, Washington. So what you do is you just got to figure out, okay, well, let me call the DC down there in Fontana. Call them and be like, what's your capacity like? How much loads are you moving out per week? And blah, blah, blah. And you just call, you talk to the traffic or it's either the traffic or the shipping and receiving manager. And they'll tell you, well, we have a trailer pool. If you have a trailer pool and we ship out a minimum of 5 loads a week, our trailer pool is 10 loads dropped, or 10 trailers dropped per week, and we ship out 5. But you got to keep a consistent pool of 10 trailers or more, no less. So that means you got to bring in 10, and when a truck comes in, it has to bring in an 11th trailer and take out 1, so it's still at 10. That's for, if that's what that shipper requires. Now, if you got the equipment to do it, by all means, go and get that contract. But a lot of people want to get contracted freight but don't understand they want to run wild card, which is like all over the country. But a lot of the direct shippers and contracted freight goes from point A to point B. We'll say from California to Arizona. So that's what you got to look at. You got to figure out what lane you want to run and how much you're willing to run it for, and if they can service it or not. Something else you got to think about when it comes to contracted freight is this. whatever rate you put, we'll say $5,000. You run $5,000 all year round, whether the freight's up or down, that rate is gonna stay $5,000. Like, for example, right now, all the rates are in the trash can, right? So you're still getting them loads for $5,000. Now, say when mid-March comes and everything goes up, so your same lane that you're getting $5,000 for, guess what? You got these carriers over there that are pulling the same load that you're pulling it for. They're getting it for $6,000, $7,000. But you're contracted, you're set for $5,000 for the whole year. So that's what you gotta think about too. Contracted freight could be a gift and a curse, because when the rates go up, your rate doesn't go up. Your rate stays the same, because that's what you agreed in your contract. And that's something that people don't understand. But at the same time, you got to think about it, the longevity of it. You're going to actually make more money having contracted freight than you will, I guess, going off the load board with the rates fluctuating. Because those same carriers that are pulling it for $6,000 and $7,000 in March, in January, they're probably only pulling it for $3,000. So it's something you got to think about too. So, it balances itself out when you really stretch the numbers out. So that's something else that you got to think about with getting contracted freight. For me, I like contracted freight because it's consistent. It keeps you running and it keeps you in a certain lane. When it comes to business and all that, I'm loyal to my lanes. I like to stay in my lane. I like to run my lanes, and I'm good. I'm solid. I don't got to make $1 million off of these lanes, because, it is what it is. It's trucking. You're not going to do that running one truck unless you have, multiple sources of income. That's the only way you're going to see the big numbers. But contracted freight is, like I said, it's a gift and a curse. That's the easiest way to get it, is to really map out how and where you want to run and just look in your area. The best thing I could say go to the, Google. If you go to, I believe it's your city of we'll say Pomona, for example. Pomona, California. If you go to their homepage, there's a link to where you can see all of the industrial services in Pomona, like all the warehouses and everything else. Just go there, click on find all the industrial and warehouses and all that in your area, and just start calling around, making phone calls, and just talk to the right people, ask the right questions, and you can get direct shipping contracts. It's not hard, especially if you have equipment. If you have multiple trailers, that's a plus. You can get really anything with multiple trailers. Trucks, because then you're banking on the shippers to have actual trailers, because now you're looking at a power only situation. But a lot of these shippers don't, because they just don't have their own trailers. That's why you see a lot of Swifts and Walmarts and JB Hunt and let's see who else, Snyder, and all these other big trucking companies, because they got 1 billion trailers that they can drop at all these mega warehouses and stuff. So like I said before, if you have multiple trailers, that is going to be the easiest way to get direct shipping freight and get direct contracts. For me, I started buying trailers because the inconsistency of these drivers out here. I can make more money flipping my trailers than I can running my trucks, trying to keep drivers in them. So that's why I say I started buying trailers just every week. I was buying one trailer a week. And then it came down to, I started buying them. First, I started monthly. Then once my business started picking up, I started buying them weekly. Every week I was buying a trailer, because I had that amount of income coming in. And that's how I end up getting so many trailers that I have. To the point now I'm selling them. So, because I got too many. But yeah, that's the easiest way to get direct shipping contracts. But like I said before, it's a gift and a curse. So I hope you learned something from this video. It's your boy Ghost. I'm about to finish getting loaded up, and I'll holler at y'all in the next video. Deuces.